the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G.
Flex on them right now, Avengers. Biggest and greatest movie of all time. And we're going to review it here today. We're also going to just talk about if there was potentially some potholes. Sorry, there was definitely some potholes that Thanos created to throw at these MOFers. The biggest potholes ever that would just pop the biggest of aired up tires thrown right at these guys midway through, actually pretty much throughout the whole entire movie, which was great. But we are here to review the Avengers. Check us out, Flex Network, everywhere. Other co-host on the other side of the world, on the other side of the glass, other side of this webcam. Michael, what'd you think about the Avengers?
Man, I was digging it, honestly. It was pretty cool. It was one of the few movies that I've seen in recent memory that was just like nonstop from the beginning, like action-wise, you know. A lot of movies kind of do that slow build thing, or they might have action in the middle to the end, but
I
this
forgot
movie,
something
what?
completely.
What?
Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Don't be coming on here listening
Yeah.
to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Pause it and then go back and try it again, because spoiler alert coming forward here. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, go ahead. Tell me what you thought about the movie.
Yeah, so like I was saying, action packed is pretty awesome. That was cool to see, you know. So if you left the movie theater, you made a huge mistake. I actually left the movie theater one time because I
You had to
went
go to the
with,
bathroom?
yeah, well, so I went to see the movie with the associate pastor from my church, and um, he was like, dude, there's this app that you can get that will tell you the like opportune moments if you have to go pee. Like it tells you when to get
Just for
up.
this
Like
specific movie, or
yeah.
like for a lot of movies?
Well, I don't know if it was for a lot of movies because I didn't actually see the app, but he was telling me about it, and I was like, nah, dude, I have a pretty good feel about this stuff, and so like I went during like kind of like a dialogue scene where they're just standing around talking, and I was like, this seems like a really good time to go. So I got up and I walked up the ramp and I walked out, and there's the dude that was working right out there. I'm like, hey, where's the closest men's restroom? He's like, you're not going to like this, but the other end of the hallway. I'm like, oh, crap. And so I just full on like sprinted across the other side, peed real quick, washed my hands super fast, sprinted all the way back, got back, and they were still in the same scene. And he was like, I said, hey, what did I miss? He said, oh, Thor just made a couple jokes. I'm like, cool, so nothing. So
Good.
yeah.
Good. I'm glad. So I'm gonna, I don't know if I want to start off like this. I've been kind of thinking about this all day. I think it was such a good movie. I think I'm definitely like a positive guy. Just want to build on positivity, but I did feel just a snaggle. Now, not enough for me to really feel like I'm gonna downgrade the movie any. But I did just think, even for 3 hours, there was probably a whole hour more that you could have gone into to develop the character and the story. Also, slow the whole plot down, because it kind of felt like right at the beginning, I was sitting there saying to my buddy, I'm like, and spoiler alert, okay? If you please do not go any further if you haven't seen the movie, okay? Not that anybody really is going to. So,
Like seriously, because they like the MCU, right? They spent hard-earned money on advertisement to get Chris Hemsworth or Brie Larson, or these other characters from the movie, like the actual actors and actresses. to film separate commercials to say, hey, spoilers, like, do not spoil it for your friends. Like, this is like the last movie for something that took us like a decade to build. Do not spoil it for your friends or for your people who haven't seen this movie. So if you're watching this video, this is the last time that we're going to say it. Pause it
or listening.
yeah, or listening. Pause this, go see Avengers, or look at if you're friends with me on Facebook, I posted a link that is the full movie that is still up and running that you can just watch.
Yeah, you just literally condemned yourself.
I don't care.
You're about,
It's
I
not like
sure
it's
hope
my
the FBI is not
it's not
listening.
my original content. Someone else had like posted it. All I
Oh,
did
you
was
just
share
think
it.
you're freaking. You just think you're not guilty because of resharing.
Yeah, dude, I'm in like a exempt status, right?
No, that's like saying, "Hey, listen, I just rode in the car. Okay,
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with this
What's
crime."
wrong, dude? What's wrong with that? I was just the getaway driver.
Anyway, what I thought about the movie, okay, was it was a little fast. I mean, they killed Thanos. Like I was saying to my friend, I was like, "Oh my gosh, what if they kill Thanos within the first 30 minutes?" Because I feel like a lot of superhero movies kind of do this sometimes, where, or not superhero, but Marvel movies, where like the big trilogy movie or whatever movie, like Age of Ultron, they sometimes feel like they get through the main part of the mission at the very beginning, and then the whole rest of the movie is dedicated to going about the rest of the cosmos as far as where our future is going in this franchise. And so they killed the guy within 30 minutes of the movie. Okay, Thanos dead, gone. Okay, obviously we have to figure out that there's some sort of time travel that has to happen in order to get these stones back. Okay, if you use time travel, you're bound to find the same exact dude, the all-powerful, almighty Thanos, and you're going to find him in the past and guarantees making Back to the Future. So to me, I just kind of thought, number one, they killed off the dude within the first 10 minutes of the show, okay? Everybody knows time travel's coming, and so I figured the plot out pretty much already, which was fine. If we erase all the idea that they killed the dude right from the get-go, and then, you know, I figured it out, I still think the movie was a great movie. It was a top 5, I would think, Marvel movie of all time, because even though the plot did what it did in advancing so fast and kind of getting, I mean, it's like they spent 0 time searching for these stones. And like, okay, they get into the time, but it's like it's not going to work the first time. And it's just like there's so much of the movie that kind of is almost elementary and just the idea, but well executed. The acting was great. You know, the comedy was fantastic. That's something that I enjoyed throughout the whole entire movie. I thought for 3 hours, I legit did not look at my phone one time just to kind of check where we were at in time, just to see if I would make it to the end, like if I was getting bored. Like the movie was fun from start to finish, but it was a little bit rushed. Did you kind of get a vibe like that a little bit? It almost felt like there was no emphasis put on this final battle, and it was all about just getting there.
Yeah, so I also didn't check my phone, by the way. I just had no desire. My eyes were pretty much just peeled to the screen the entire time, and so um you know, I was all about that, and I did feel like that final battle, that they really did rush it, because I thought that it was going to be a battle that Thanos would kind of prevail in and would just beat up on the Avengers, and then they would have to um um you know, you would have to go and like regroup and like get some reinforcements and all that stuff, and then come back, and then really fight him. But they showed a couple of them, and then they were kind of getting their butt kicked for a second, and then the whole squad arrives, and you're like, whoa, like this thing is going down for real right now. And so I mean, it felt rushed in a sense, but um there were some things about it that were just strange. I had a lot of questions. And I mean, and that's the thing to remember. You're not just going to see a movie like this. It is like the final chapter of a decade's worth of movies, and a lot of the characters, like, the Guardians of the Galaxy films and the Iron Mans and the Thors and the Hulks and stuff like that, having multiple movies. So it's not like you're going to watch a movie and have zero questions. Of course, you're going to have questions, especially when you start to incorporate things like time travel, like going back in time. We've seen other movies, non-comic book related and non-MCU, non-DC, all that stuff, that when you go back in time and you even do something as simple as like step on a ant or something, you alter a reality, or you create a new timeline in another place and stuff like that. And so those are all
So
things
let's
that
stop there real quick because I want to start breaking down sections of this movie.
okay.
Let's go to the time travel though, right?
All right.
So kind of I just want to elaborate on what you're saying. You're saying that basically what we've seen from time travel movies are if you go back and disrupt time, it pretty much disrupts the future, right? That's
Well,
kind of like what the TV shows out there kind of like, I what's that movie where Marty McFly goes back in time?
Back to the Future.
Yeah, Back to the Future. That's probably like the most famous movie of time travel.
Right.
And where he's like, Marty, you cannot,
That's a really good impression, by the way.
and he's like, you cannot you know what I mean? So, but what do you think about their choice to go the route upon time travel, where
So,
when you travel back in time, you're not affecting the future of your own timeline. You're instead creating an alternate reality and an alternate ending for the people on that timeline. Which is a crazy like ideal, which is why we got to get to Captain America and how that makes sense, just because there was a couple plot holes with that whole time travel. But
right.
what do you think about that time travel? Like, does that make sense to you? Do you think it makes sense to people that is like a process that you could fathom about time travel? Obviously, we know nothing about time travel, so it's like, we have no idea. So instead of taking the route of, you go back in time and you affect everything, instead you go back in time, you affect that reality, and it breaks off into a new reality that it's alternate. So you're not affecting your personal future as the people going back in time.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that I started reading a lot of Flash. As a kid I was really into Flash. And then through high school and college and stuff like that, I ended up like really getting into Flash.
So
And
like
kind of
when you say Flash, you're talking about the Flash, right? The
yeah,
Marvel.
the Flash. Here he is right here. Look, check this guy out. That Flash.
I
Just
don't
got
know
him.
that I recognize that mofo.
That's the Flash from Justice League. See, it says Justice League up here.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the
Anyway,
Flash.
yeah. So the Flash. So Barry Allen, is the one that's on the TV show that they currently have out now. But anyway, long story short, the Flash runs through something called the Speed Force, which gives him the ability to run back in time, and go into different dimensions and things like that. And so the when you start to do things to, like, maybe you don't like um maybe someone died in your life, right? And you go back in time and you kind of change things so that that person doesn't die. that doesn't mean that someone doesn't die. So like say it's your, like in the Flash's case, his mom dies, right? So he runs back in time and says, "Oh, I don't want my mom to die because it's my mom. So I'll save my mom." And then you come back to your current reality, you'll have your mom, but like maybe your best friend's gone, or your best friend died, or your brother died, or your dad died, you know.
So is
So
that
you,
comparative to this?
yeah,
Is it
yeah.
like okay?
So time travel and kind of how that works and alternate realities, all of those things are kind of they I want to say they're universal. So, just because one's DC and one's Marvel, that doesn't matter. Like time travel is kind of like its own like thing outside of, like, if you've ever seen the movie Butterfly Effect, right? And every time that they would go back and
Underrated greatest movie of all time. Underrated greatest movie of all time.
not greatest, but is definitely is underrated. But going back and changing something from the past, when you come to the future, one of two things happens. You have either created a new reality, which is you have your mom, but your brother's dead, or you've created a whole new dimension of like of things that happen that are weird. And so this is like an ongoing thing. Like I watched the Flash TV show. And so like they have ran back in time and messed some things up and all that. So it's just a it's one of those things that like you have to be very conscious of what you're doing. Like if you go back in time, you want to make sure that you're not changing too much, because you could create a crazy reality that you might not want to deal with. Um, but with the Avengers, you have it, and so it's like if they go back in time and say they kill Thanos, or they get to a point where they take a stone, they get a stone before Thanos can get to the stone. A lot of things can change. And I think in the movie that was one thing that Tony Stark was very aware of. I think Hulk was semi aware, because Hulk and Bruce Banner kind of, Bruce Banner the person, not Hulk, and Tony Stark both being like kind of nerds and having different expertise in different areas. They could work together. They were really good together. Um, they have a In the movie, it seems like they have a pretty good idea on like what time travel is, and like Captain America is like he's like the moral compass for everyone. Um, so we'll see. I don't know. Time travel is crazy, dude. They could go so many different directions with it that it could just really like jack up the whole MCU existence for years to come. We don't even know what's going to happen from here.
So I think they played it very well. So basically they're saying that hey, they explain it to you very easy. If you go back in time, okay, you would have to return what you took to make the world, as far as that, specific piece that you took, operable again in that world. And for whatever reason, for what they are doing is they're retrieving these stones that are otherworld like, and it's funny because most of it takes place on just three separate parts. But it's like whenever you do the earth scenes, I don't know so much that you really get and understand that it's like, hey, if these stones do not make it back, the whole entire everything could change for everyone, and it's just like they're cosmic. And so to go back, and I think they chose a good way. Hey, we got to take it, we got to use it, and then we have to return it. What we did not see is them actually returning it. So that was left to Captain America, okay, and that's where I wanted to get to, kind of the semi plot hole of the ending. Captain America goes back and then in time and does not come back to them in their time reality. He decides to stay. Okay. So a lot of people are saying, well, how can that happen? Captain America cannot go back in time and stay and catch them in their own timeline, because the rules of their time travel was that if you go back and affect that reality, like in such a way, that it's unrepairable in that reality, it creates a new alternate reality where he ends. So he would not be on the same time span as where they are when they launch him back in time, because he created an alternate reality by affecting it and living longer. And so I think I'm not too sure if Russo said this or the Russo brothers, you posted that to me, that they self-answered some of the plot holes. But we will get to that. But I don't think, or I'm not too sure if they answered that question. But I think, and what I've kind of seen and read, is that it makes sense only if Captain America time travels back to their timeline, and then he's waiting for them. And so that does make sense. I'm not sure if that's the best answer to it, but I know that does make sense, that he went back in time to return all the stones. He returned the stones. He ended up staying in a specific timeline and then affected that timeline's alternate ending in reality. And so he lived it up until he knew the year would come that he went back in time at that original point, I believe was 2023. So the endings, and that's important too, and we'll talk about that hopefully. The ending of the movies is all in 2023. And so I think I want to say that the Spider-Man Homecoming movie is set in like 4 years early, like
So
2019, like this current time. And
yeah,
I just want to finish that ideal is what do you believe that's probably a good way of answering it, is that he had to time travel back to that point to talk to him and give the that's
shield.
he gave the shield to the
Sam.
new America.
Yeah,
Blacked in
his
America.
name is Sam. He's the
Falcon.
Falcon, yeah.
So it's Captain Falcon. Anyway, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a good way to answer the kind of plot hole in that whole time travel thing where he was supposed to return the stones?
Well, I would just say, like, keeping an open mind with some of this stuff, and understand that, like, that time travel isn't necessarily just so when you time travel, a lot of people in their minds think, I'm either going back in time or I'm going forward in time, right? And so that's kind of how they view it. And so what the Russos were saying is, well, we don't know if he went necessarily back in time or forward in time. We, maybe he was just in an alternate dimension or something, which is kind of like, hey, as I'm going back in time, look at all these dimensions on the side of me as I'm going. So two things happen. They could have gone back in time to drop the stones off and all that stuff, and then come back to the current like present time. But as Captain America comes back as an old man, they're saying, oh, he went to one of these like alternate dimensions on the side here. And that's when they kind of cut to that scene of him dancing with what was her name?
Peggy Carter, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
Peggy
think what
Carter.
maybe probably happened is that he went back in time and lived that reality. That's why he's old.
Yeah, he wanted to stay there, and he wanted to
Have that dance,
I mean, because if you know Captain America's story, then you know that, like, he was, like, at the bottom of the ocean or whatever, just frozen for a bunch of years, and when they basically thawed him out, he was, like, I don't know how many years in the future, 40 years in the future, 30 years in the future, something like that, and so he went to basically was frozen right after they had conquered Hitler, and then when he was thawed out, it was like he was in the middle of New York City, and there were skyscrapers everywhere, and people were flying planes all over the place, and there's just a bunch of traffic and stuff, and it just like really rocked his world. He was like, man, I gotta
So do you
figure out.
think two Captain Americas lived in his timeline?
Yes, because there had to have been a Captain America, him as himself, in that timeline. But he could have just operated as just a regular like dude
Yeah,
living
but he
his
went to
life, you
Peggy
know?
Carter. So if you were to think that he would be frozen, so then what you would think is that he went back in time to his younger age, you know, and or not as, yeah, I guess you could say his younger age, because he doesn't no, he became buff. That's right. Okay, he became buff, right? So really what he did is he went back to the time that he was frozen and just hopped in there, you think. Maybe he
Right.
just hopped into that point, then lived that 40 years or whatever, and then hopped out.
Yeah,
Maybe.
because that would make him, like what he's joining the military when he's probably like 19, 20, something like that, and then he lived that whole time with Peggy, and which would bring him back to the current time. So that would put what 40 years on him, and that would make him 60 essentially, and so um he
Okay,
would
so
just be
then he
on
would
there.
have to, so okay, then but he would have to time travel. So we're in agreement. Then he would have to time travel at that time to go back to 2023 and then be in their timeline, because he affected it into an alternate reality, so it went another way. He came from this straight line, but then he hopped on this line and curved it, and now in order to get back, he has to time travel back
Yeah.
as an old man, though.
Yeah, and so I
Yeah,
think here's the thing.
I would
I
love to hold on
I
real quick.
think
I would love to, what I would really love to do is eventually, potentially, see that movie of him going back. What do you think about that?
yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about that earlier when we first started talking about it. It's just kind of like, hey, like what's that'd be kind of a cool like not necessarily a spin-off, but like if Marvel just wanted to make some money and release a Captain America movie, they could do a whole movie about him just in that dimension and what he was doing and
You know what
but
they could do? What's his face? What's the actor that plays him again?
Chris Evans.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what do you think they could do? They could pull off like the biggest movie of all time, and they can record the movie as he just ages in real life. What would be dope is if you had like 25 years on this and you recorded it instead of CGI'd it, you recorded it in him as he's aging. And that might be kind of like a weird thing to see, like if they could play it that long, because it's not a movie that you need to see, but it's a movie that after a string of movies and a compilation of everything great, because you would think that this Marvel Cinematic Universe is not ending. Like, do we think for real that like they're just going to keep going and going and going, and then once they get to the end of all the comic book, you know, decent characters to put on film, they're going to start creating their own. Like this has now gotten to a point where it is such a beast that you could go another 40 years and continue to make movies about these characters.
I mean, here's the thing, like you wouldn't make movies that were like some of the movies that are rumored or like like so what do we know? We know Homecoming for Spider-Man, right? We know that's coming out. We know that there's a Black Widow movie in the works, which is kind of crazy if you know what happens to Black Widow in Avengers.
Which we
Um
are saying and we're spoiling that she dies.
yeah. She is sacrificed for the what is it? The Soul Stone, right?
Yeah, but she would actually have a great movie because they could just be wanting to tell her story of how she got there, which is an intriguing story. And I
Well,
do
it is
believe,
intriguing, but it's like why would you wait till this point to tell that story? You should have told it like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago or
yeah,
something.
well, they're waiting because I think that she's getting her own show on that Disney Plus thing. I
Oh,
think the
Black
Disney
Widow is?
yeah, Black Widow is I believe. You might want to look that
Nice.
up, but I think she's getting like I know Loki is. Loki's
Yeah.
getting an episodic TV show, which could, I mean, if they treat that TV show correctly, they could explain everything that happened in Endgame with him grabbing the stone and fluke out of timeline. They also never went back to that because they had to go back earlier in time to steal the stone. So they changed that alternate reality, and now Loki has that stone in that reality. And then they took it from the other reality. So they went triple Inception. It was crazy. It was crazy. But did you look that up potentially for me?
No, I was looking it up, but I couldn't really find anything that like really said, because
If
everything that's
Black
on
Widow was
that,
getting a show?
yeah, it's just kind of rumored right now. There's no one that's like, yes, for sure it's going.
Okay, maybe it is a
I'm
rumor.
still
Here I
I'm
am
still looking. I'm
spreading
still looking though.
rumors. Spreading rumors all over this mother. What was your favorite part of the movie? Or
Um,
something that caught your eye? It doesn't have to be the favorite.
well, for those of you who don't know and you're watching this anyway because you don't care about spoilers, Thor ends up being fat because he hates his life essentially and just starts drinking and eating whatever he wants. He makes there's a scene where they're rolling in this truck. I think Black Widow's driving a truck or something like that, and Hulk is in the back. He's just sitting in the back weighing down the truck like crazy, and they roll up to like this little like town or village or whatever, and as they approach the town they see a sign that says New Asgard, and you're like, oh crap, this is where Thor's at. And then you get in there and the person you see is Valkyrie, and she's in there, and she's like actually doing work, posted up and all that stuff. My favorite scene was more of like, it's from a comedy aspect. Thor was in there and he's like, "Oh, are you the cable guy? You coming to fix the cable? It's been out for a week." And so like just like the comedy of it was pretty funny. They're in there playing Fortnite and all that, and so I thought that whole scene was funny, and so
And
I,
then they're playing Fortnite with that character on Fortnite that I don't know, that must be like a new Marvel character or just the stock character that almost looks like a superhero. And
so when Endgame came out, or like the day before or something like that, they released the Avengers pack, and so like the first character that you could get was a Black Widow character, and so like that's the one that everyone had,
I
and so that
remember I don't play that game, but I can, and sometimes I do, but I really don't. But I do remember when it was a pack, and so you couldn't I don't think you could, if somebody had the downloadable pack that cost money, did that go into whoever was playing on that server's game? Because I remember just I was picking up Thanos's or the Infinity Gauntlet on the map sometimes and fucking people up with it.
yeah, so like that's when you play that specific game mode, you can be Thanos, or Thanos is coming. But like if you were Thanos, you're like wrecking shop. Like you can shoot like these big like energy beams at people, and like it's just in that specific game mode, which
Oh
is
yeah,
kind
I
of
want energy beams for sure.
yeah, like Dragon Ball Z status. I'm just sending all this energy to you.
Okay, so yes, Fat Thor. That was definitely. I mean, that was easily the best comedy in the movie, or
Yeah.
because it's not like he got unfat, in the
Which
matter of a
was
day.
funny, because at a certain point, I was really like, "Okay, Thor's fat," and then I was like, "Yeah, but when is he just gonna be, like, ripped and in shape again?" I was thinking that they were gonna go that way, and then another thing that was surprising was that, Bruce Banner was the Hulk, meaning he was huge and his skin was green and everything, but he didn't have the rage, and so in the movie, they explained that he, like, figured out a way for both of them to coexist. And so he was the intelligence and he was the politeness and all those things of Bruce Banner, but he looked like the Hulk. He was just massive and like,
Right, right. I
yeah,
think
so
in the
that,
comics it does that too. So like in
yeah,
the and everybody was like waiting forever for that because that is kind of how Hulk is in the comics, and so it's really nice to see that we're getting that Hulk um potentially going forward in the future. And a big deal for the Hulk character is Black Widow dying. So I mean,
Yeah, because they were connected, kind of not like in like a romantic way, but they were
oh,
like
it
really
was
good friends.
romantic. You know, it had
Uh,
like that
it had a
romance.
point. It had a point in like the first Avengers or maybe the second Avengers movie, but like it nothing really happened with it. And then like another big point was when Captain America in the big fight scene was able to pick up Thor's hammer. They were like,
Not only pick it
whoa.
up, but he summoned it,
Yeah, and he was able to use it, which is dope.
which
Like
is
my
also a comic thing. You know,
Yeah,
and the
so like because the big deal with the hammer is you can't pick it up or summon it if you're not worthy to do it,
and there's
right?
like not very many people ever that it
Yeah, so like
ever.
I want to say maybe the first or second Avengers, I can't remember which one it is, but they were like partying or whatever, and they were like up on the table, and like everyone was getting kind of like drunk or whatever, and everyone was trying to pick up the hammer, and like they couldn't do it, and all that stuff, and um. At one point, like Tony Stark had put on one of his like Iron Man like gauntlet like glove things, and he was using the power from the glove to try and lift it, and then he got the dude that plays War Machine to come over, and so they were both using like the gauntlet glove things to use the energy off of it for like they call it like a negative I can't remember negative whatever, but using the beam from it to push you away from the table to try and lift it off the table. They couldn't do it, and so like no one could lift it. And in that movie, Captain America actually grabs it and it kind of moves a little, and Thor looks at it and kind of got wide-eyed for a second, and then he was like, you have me nervous. That's not really what happened.
I
But
legit popped when that happened. Right when it gets up
dude,
and then he goes, "Whoosh," and he's like, I knew it, and I popped. I was like, dang, that was such a cool part of the movie, such a cool part to the real Marvel universe. That he can wield the hammer in the comics, not all, like every time, but I know he has the power to. I'm not a big comic guy, so don't rake me under the coals for that comment. But
yeah.
that was that I was gonna say that was one of my favorite parts.
It's funny because I was like, I told you I saw this movie with my pastor, and so I'm sitting next to him, and like as it's funny as Captain America picks up the hammer, I'm like, oh shit, like really loud, and like people in the movie theater were like clapping, and they were like, yeah, like they loved it. It was awesome, and so
That's
it
cool.
was
I wish
it
I
was a
was
cool
at a
moment.
theater like that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's greatness, freaking people community and something like this is amazing. So
and
my favorite part.
I'm pretty sure there's a black guy in the movie theater that was like, let's go. He was so hyped for no reason. But
Well,
yeah.
he's hyped because you were hyped. You got him
Yeah.
hyped. No,
Yeah.
my favorite part. Some people I don't know like this or didn't like it, or maybe it's some controversy. I don't know why. I mean, probably most of the people listening to this are not going to think that, but one of my absolute favorite parts of that movie is when all the women mid stiff battle joined forces pretty much, and they gave like a good 30 seconds to these girls as this big old group of chicks, and they badass chicks, man. They went up there, they kicked some ass, and it was a cool part of that movie. I've got a daughter, you've got a daughter, and so if you don't have a daughter,
I got
it's
2 daughters, dog. I got 2
yeah,
daughters.
you got daughters.
And I
Yeah,
got a female dog. So what's
yeah,
up?
yeah. So that's. I mean, if you ever get a chance to watch it with your child, and if she gets into the idea of superheroes, because I know, like when we're all young, man, some of the stuff that those people do, it's like that is good. That's what greatness is, and it's fun to watch that, especially for the female population. We know that they are such a big part of watching these nerdy things, but they're part of this group, and I feel like they don't get enough like talk. It seems like it's a male dominated thing, but it really isn't. Like there's so many females out there, and it's kind of showing up now throughout everything in sports entertainment, one of them being professional wrestling as well, where like these
No
female
doubt.
characters are becoming prevalent now and becoming the main stage. And so, I would say all the best parts of the movie was, the females. And, when Captain America or Captain Marvel came through and really changed that game. But without her, they were kind of on their toes a little bit. And so that was a big pivotal part. The second part is when basically Black Widow sacrificed herself.
Right.
And I understand why she did it. I mean, she doesn't have kids, she doesn't have a family. She's got friends that are close, but she's got to save the world and somebody's got to do it, and you might as well give a father back to his family. And that was really cool too. I love that part. So some of the biggest parts in that movie were the female leads, and that was just really cool to see.
Yeah, so like in the big battle scene, they were all fighting, and it looked like Thanos' army was kind of gonna gain an edge a little bit. Um, and then next thing you know, here comes, Thanos' ship is up there, and it's just kind of like hovering over the whole battle scene and everything. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting there thinking, just a couple minutes before that, like, oh, when is Captain Marvel gonna get here? I wonder how they're gonna like you know bring her into all of this, because you know earlier in the movie she was talking about how she was looking for Thanos, and she was going to all these different planets and different galaxies and all that stuff. um, and in that time, she shows up late to the battle, and she just crashes through dude's ship and just totally wrecks his ship, and then lands. And I was kind of leaning back in my chair a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And then you see like the beam of light, which is Captain Marvel just coming down. She crashes through the ship, and I'm like, "Oh, this is about to get real for real. It's going down. Captain Marvel's here. Like the final piece is here.
And
We're
she's
about to."
obviously super powerful. I mean, she can go in throughout space without any type of mask or spaceship.
Right.
And she
And so
proceeds to have a one-on-one battle directly with Thanos right that point. And like, that's when everything, the tides kind of started changing.
yeah, and so like you had kind of referenced early just a few minutes ago about like women being powerful and like in all sports and all that stuff, but I would just say that like specifically within like the comic book world or the Marvel Cinematic Universe, um dude, or not just Marvel, but DC as well. Like, there's a bunch of like pretty badass like women who are these characters. You're talking. You got Black Widow, and now Captain Marvel on the big stage, and
Wonder Woman.
yeah, you have Wonder Woman, and She-Hulk is like all time. And there's a reason why Wonder Woman is kind of like looked at like, oh, Superman's like the most like badass dude ever. But if Wonder Woman shows up, we really know who runs the show, because Wonder Woman can do it all. She could she could lift Thor's hammer. I'm pretty sure she did that in the comic. You know, some what do they call it? It's like an independent thing that I used to read. Is like Wonder Woman was like lifting Thor's hammer and all that stuff. Um,
I'm sure that anybody, honestly, like, you could almost think that it's not so much that greatness in a single person can just lift the hammer. I think it's like greatness also in like a situation. I just feel like the hammer is so innately good that, like, if you're legit fight, I think maybe nobody tried to summon it during that time but Captain America, because Captain America's smart. He's cunning. Because here's the thing, I feel like Mjolnir would be so down to help the greater good fight this, intergalactic negative being, that if somebody else even if freaking Tony Stark wanted to, like, it's destiny that Tony Stark is going to snap his fingers and fucking give himself up as a martyr for the present day, and leaving behind his daughter, which he said going into it that that's not what was going to happen. And he did phenomenal. I want to talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about let's
well, hold on real quick, because my brother just hit me up, and he was like, "Hey, dude, don't forget about the Scarlet Witch." Pretty much went one on one with Thanos and was like wrecking shop, because she was mad because he had, I don't. No, it was an agent. Age of Ultron when he died. I'm pretty sure. What do they call that dude? The speedster dude that was in that they had.
Oh
That was
yeah, the X-Men guy. Yeah,
yeah.
I fucking forget. I forgot
Was
his
it
name.
was it Silver something or was it? I can't remember.
Maybe it is Silver Speed guy. No,
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver. That's what it
Yeah,
is. I think.
yeah.
I
Um,
forgot. I just forgot. I couldn't even
yeah,
fathom thinking of that right now. So it sounds like
yeah.
I'm not.
But if you remember that scene where Thanos is like kind of posted up right there, and then she comes out and she's like, "Oh, you wanna just think you're gonna kill everyone in my life, okay?" And she definitely held her own against Thanos.
Yeah, she did it in Infinity War too. I mean, she's badass. Like she is one of the most badass. I mean, honestly, probably you know, you look at Captain America and you look at Tony Stark, and then you look at Captain Marvel and Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch and Captain Marvel are by far more powerful than Tony Stark and Captain America, who are both just,
Yeah,
you know,
and
changed humans. That's
you
all
know,
they are.
and Scarlet Witch was very, very upset the fact that, that Thanos killed Vision.
Yeah, and I thought for sure
Vision
we
was a
might see
stone by
Vision too.
himself, right?
Yeah, I wanted to see him back. It didn't happen, but that was something that, you know, I wanted to see. I thought maybe. But man, that scene when they bring everybody back and the freaking time holes are just opening up from Doctor Strange, and here comes fucking Spider-Man, and just, you know, we're here now, like this shit's going down.
And
And
Spider-Man just being like a little kid, like, doesn't even know that he's been dead for 5 years. He's like, "Oh, hey guys, what's up? What are
yeah,
we
dude,
doing?"
I
Like,
love that. I love that.
yeah.
I'm so into the young Spider-Man versus
Yeah, it's
a
good.
middle-aged Spider-Man, you know, or anything like that. I mean, I love Tobey Maguire, but
No,
um
I didn't care for that Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man that I did like, which I just felt like I don't think he did anything wrong, was the Andrew Garfield, the one between Tobey
the
Maguire
one
and
that everybody else says is the worst.
that's not the worst. I felt like that wasn't his fault. He was just playing the role that they wanted him to play. I didn't think that he was
Yeah,
a
but I
bad
mean, if
Spider-Man
he's
at
not
all.
dynamic, he's not dynamic, you
I
know?
get
It's
it, but I do like this dude Tom Holland now who's playing Spider-Man because that's what Spider-Man is. He's a
he
15-year-old
is.
kid, you know?
Yeah, he's it, dude. He's it. He's it 100%. I do not want to watch another Spider-Man movie without Tom Holland in it. Like that's
Yeah, also the, Pepper Potts was balling out in her own little Iron Man suit. She's doing
yeah,
her
that's
thing.
stuff you know, not only Pepper. I mean, like I said, all the girls did. They did a fantastic job. That's why I called it my favorite, like one of my favorite parts of the movie. Um let's get into something else. What about some of the stuff that you didn't like?
Ah, man, that's gonna be a hard one for me because I
I can
liked
tell
so
you
much
mine
of that
then.
movie.
I
Yeah,
can tell
go
you
ahead.
mine.
Let me think on it for a second.
Captain Marvel. Okay. They have really not done well with that character. Honestly. Like they hyped up her movie so much. They hyped up Captain Marvel in general, saying she's the most powerful Marvel, you know, person that they have in the Avengers. Um, her self-titled movie was super rushed, and you never got an emotional connection to her. Then we all know she's the most powerful. She's here. She's like, listen, there's a lot of shit going on. I got to go somewhere else. But it's like, don't you think that she would come and be there right on time for the next battle of everything? Like, we trying to act like she doesn't know. Like, come on. You know, that doesn't make any sense at all. A lot of this didn't make sense. She like I said, she showed up at the end. She basically almost beat her by himself, you know, or by herself. I felt like if her Scarlet Witch got together, they could probably beat Thanos. Like, what's the big deal? You know, once you kill the head of the fucking dragon, then the rest of the dragon falls apart. And so it's just tough. That's something I didn't like. Also, I thought maybe they would go to I don't know. And the Russos talked about this, but like Doctor Strange is more powerful than they give credit to. And so like I
No
just feel like
freaking doubt on that, dude. Oh my gosh.
yeah, and so it's just almost like he's a secondary character. They show more of Black Panther because he has a skill set of like hand-to-hand combat and they're already kind of down there. But what, I would rather see what the mystical arts are doing because it feels like to me that would be a fucking bigger deal. And yet all we get are these human figures, which is fine. I mean, I understand. It's a great movie. It's a great movie, but that's just something that rubbed me the wrong way.
Okay, so now that I had a chance to think about it, I got a couple things. So, one of the things being like Doctor Strange. I'm a big fan of Doctor Strange. I really like Doctor Strange. And so it's upsetting when there's not when a character like that isn't being used. And so, like we kind of said a minute ago, he's just not being used. He's way stronger than people give him credit for. He can do a lot of different crazy things. And I just felt like that was an opportunity for them to kind of showcase that. And they didn't really get into it outside of like, them picking up the gauntlet and like throwing it through these different like little time portal things real quick. Um, so he's really good and I really like him, and I just think there's not a big enough fan base following him. Another thing is we mentioned the fat Thor. I was like waiting for Thor to like really tear some stuff up, like on a whole nother level, and he never ended up doing it, and that was kind of frustrating for me because I was waiting for it to happen. It never happened. And I'm a and that's another one that I'm like a big fan of. Like Thor is like has like some untapped power. I don't even think Thor realizes how strong he is and the abilities that he has and the power that he has and all that stuff. And then just Hulk. I mean, Hulk has been so frustrating for like the past like couple of movies, In Ragnarok, in Thor Ragnarok, he didn't want to do a whole lot, and so that was annoying. I wanted Hulk to come out and just destroy some stuff. Hulk, in my opinion, in his finest moment was when he was in the Avengers movie. I think it was the first one when all the aliens attacked New York City and they were fine. Cap turns to Hulk and he's like, "Hey, Hulk," and he looks at him and he's like, "Smash," and he's like, "All right," and he like starts jumping off of buildings and punching people, body slamming people, and he catches Loki in this room at the top of the tower, and Loki's like, "Hey, I'm a god," blah blah blah, all this stuff, and Hulk's like, "Cool," and he just picks him up and just like tosses him side to side and just smashes him down real quick, and he's like, "Dude, I'm Hulk, I'm a beast." And I just didn't see that from Hulk in this movie, and it was kind of annoying because I wanted to see like Hulk have his own scene where he's like, "I'm letting the anger take over. I'm just gonna smash on so much stuff at one time." Like I'm gonna pick up one of these like flying giant whale looking alien ship things and just smash that thing down and kill a bunch of people and all that stuff. And so it wasn't so much like maybe a plot issue, but it was more of like a why didn't you utilize the characters the way that we know they can be utilized?
So that's both of ours then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it's probably, I mean, what can you ask of a movie that's already great in every way? It's tough to get to everybody, especially when you already know these characters. Like, Doctor Strange is dope. His movie was amazing. They put some serious character development into it. They need to do more new Hulk movies, but it's really tough now at this point because you already kind of know where he's at currently. So it's not like you can go back in time and kind of be a different Hulk, So you already kind of know where he's at and where he's going. So maybe you can do it, but I don't know. I'd rather see new Hulk learn better and more abilities and then be more of that prevalent, because now that Tony Stark's gone, you're gonna have to really step up. Like these guys, I don't know. I think on my last thing to say is this. Tony Stark, you know, I'd like to give a moment of silence for this guy. He's fantastic. I mean, not only is he a great actor, he's the perfect person to ever play that role specifically. It's like it was wrote for him. He makes this entire movie everything that it is every single time, even though you're supposed to like Captain America more, like in the comics. Captain
Right.
America is supposed to be that like central figure.
Like he's the
But
moral compass, like I mentioned earlier. Like he's the most like he's like I do the right thing always, even when it sucks, and I
well,
think that's
and he's the
why.
best. Like that's the idea is like
Yeah,
he's the greatest.
he's
And
the first Avenger, is what they call him.
yeah, and so that's fine, but Tony Stark and this character is so phenomenal. Um it's unbelievable, really. They gave him so much character in this movie on his last movie. Maybe he can come back in the future to do something else. But man, he gets a kid. You see scenes with him and his kid which give you emotion. He gets crazy at the very beginning because he's like, fuck you guys, like we lost, fuck you guys.
Right,
And he goes, also he repents and he plays science guy. He fucking finds that out. He does science. He becomes sciencey. He goes and he sees his dad in the past, has a real great moment with his dad, just something amazing on his way out. And then you have Pepper doing the Iron Man suit that he made as the future him, which is phenomenal. And then she and him have the last moment, which is also phenomenal. And so maybe if the Iron Man character ever comes back again, it'll be Pepper, or maybe it'll be his daughter. But you have to wait a long time in the MCU to have that happen unless you're fucking fast forwarding everything. Because she's only like what, 3? So she's got to become 16 and extra smart and savvy, and has been kind of raised by like her super older brother, the Spider-Man. Like that's going to be great because they had such a strong connection, Spider-Man and Iron Man. And you would think that maybe Tom Holland, as he grows up, it gets a little bit more of like a 30s or something. It could be another 10 years before we start seeing those new
right.
stories. um it's Yeah, it's great. And he is just so amazing as far as his acting and where he goes. I just can't believe. That's what I was going to say. So this is what brought this up is I'm not too sure if it's just because I've been so connected to these characters, or if it's because I don't like the characters. But the new Avengers, I don't know that I'm like super into, Blacked in America, you know, Falcon. He, it's him and what, Ant-Man. It's they don't have their Captain America. They don't have their Iron Man. So who are they going to build up as the king of this franchise? And do you fuck with the new Avengers as they are now?
So let me go back for a second because you were kind of talking about like Robert Downey Jr. playing Captain or playing Iron Man, and I'm a huge believer in like redemption, right? As just from like a someone's own personal walk in their life, like you screw up in your life, and then I feel like people deserve an opportunity at redemption. And so, like Robert Downey Jr., the man, having all these drug and alcohol problems, getting arrested, rehab, all that type of stuff. Really, the Iron Man character has kind of saved Robert Downey Jr.'s career, his acting career. Um, and so, just to be able to create that fame for him, and like I remember sitting in my buddy's living room, and he showed me a trailer for the first ever Iron Man. And I was just like, "Holy crap, dude. Look at this." Like, I could not believe that they would ever make an Iron Man movie. Um, I couldn't believe it. And so, just the whole idea of, like, Robert Downey Jr. resurrecting his career, has there ever been a role that someone was made for more than that? Robert Downey Jr. is the perfect actor to play Iron Man. Can you think of another role that someone's more made for?
I can only really think of one, and it's just Heath Ledger's, uh,
Oh yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
what
Yeah, Joker.
his way of portraying that character, I think, was definitely right in line with an Iron Man. And I mean, I'm so sad about that because I could go another 3 movies just like Iron Man, on the Joker character. You know, um, that is something that I definitely wish I could have. But the Iron Man character, 100%, is the embodiment of the best actor, the best cast. It's right in line with Michael Scott and Steve Carell. It's iconic. Um, it will go down in history as one of the best characters ever played. Tony Stark, he's done. So let's get back to my question. Who is the next Tony Stark? Who is the next perfect Iron Man esque leader for the new Avengers?
Well, one thing I'll say about Falcon is he is I believe he possesses that same moral compass that Captain America does because of his military background. Serving in the military myself, I know that a lot of guys, I wouldn't say all because I've definitely been around ones who don't, but I feel like the ones that take it pretty seriously kind of have a just simple moral compass when it's like, they talk about it, do the right thing when nobody's watching. And so I believe that they both kind of are cut from the same cloth with that. As far as like just the overall like good looks and persona and all that type of stuff, I don't think that he's that. I think there's ways for them to move throughout different dimensions or with time travel universes and things like that. I just don't know where they're gonna go, and I don't see anyone from these current Avengers that are kind of like in that spot where they could.
I see one. I see only one. I see it.
Spider-Man, maybe.
No, I see it like this. I see it as Tony Stark was so great and Captain America was so great. They were so great together. I don't think that you can have just one person replace them. I think you need to go back to two. But I think they need to be a stronger duo together so that they're more of a one big strong entity. And it's got to be Star-Lord and Thor. I mean, not only is it hilarious, it's characters you can love, it's characters you can get behind. Um, and over time could definitely show itself as a character on the level of Tony Stark and Iron Man. What do you think?
Um, yeah, I think they possess the ability. It's just a matter of will they do it? Who knows? And so,
Do you think they
um,
get put in that role, or do you think no? Do you think they'll just kind of maybe it'll be somebody else?
No, I think part of what makes him great is the role that they're in. I think they'll probably more than likely try and introduce new characters to bring into that, and so it'd be interesting. My brother actually just sent me a message. This is a little off topic, but my brother sent me a message and wanted to remind me that we didn't talk about the funniest part of the movie when they were talking about Captain America's ass. Do you remember that? And he was like, "You're right. That is America's ass right there."
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was funny. That there was a lot of actually really funny parts. It just honestly, pretty much throughout the whole entire movie, they were cracking jokes as they were
Yeah.
like fighting, and it was just kind of it was funny. The whole actually a whole hot potato chase thing with the gauntlet. That is
Yeah.
so human. Like you humanize, a lot of these characters are human, and like Hawkeye to Spider-Man, was like the transition of where that cup went. And it's like between those two guys, it's just completely, they're not like, except for Spider-Man being able to swing and fly, kind of, you got Hawkeye just, imagine being Hawkeye, like he's just running really fast over this battlefield, like where all these monsters are around him and fucking super beings from another dimension or another universe planet. It's like, dude, he's just running with the gauntlet. Like you could just see if you were watching that in person how you might laugh at something like that. So the hot potato segment was pretty funny. Yeah, I
Not
really
just
like that.
not just that, but like remember when they when they went in the elevator or whatever, and Hulk couldn't get in the elevator, and he's pissed off about the stairs.
Yeah, they didn't. They're trying to steal the stone. They get the fucking stone, and then the Hulk smashes right through the door, knocking Tony over and like basically knocking him out because they didn't figure that they were dealing with the old Hulk, where he was basically a rampaging, uncontrollable someone. It was just funny, That was
Right.
funny, 100%. That was funny.
But yeah, so there's a lot of comedy involved and stuff like that. It was funny because like as like Hawkeye's running with the gauntlet or whatever, he's running, and he Black Panther just kind of casually runs up next to him, and he's like, "Hey, give me the gauntlet." Like, one, I'm Black Panther, and two, did I mention that I was black? I'm faster than you. You're white. And so he just kind of gets it, and he's jumping over different
I'm
stuff and
not too
outrunning
sure
people.
that was 100% the ideal, but
No,
yeah, he's
but that's true.
superhuman. Okay.
Hey, it's only racism if it's not true.
It's
If
only weird if it works.
yeah, but it's true. He like handed it off, and like Black Panther was just kind of rolling through there, jumping over stuff and flying past people. I mean, that's kind of Black Panther's his agility is like, next level. Like no one's really on his level with his agility. It's
Yeah, he's like
kind
a
of crazy.
feline with his agility.
Right. That's pretty cool. So, other than that, man, I don't when we talk about like plot holes and like what did you not like, it's like, man, I'm searching because I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, that's great. My last thing is gonna be I really felt like a sense of closure, like with this movie, and that's something great. Even though they definitely transitioned to like the future a little bit, like the Asgardians of the galaxy, and they kind of set you up for where, and then Peter Parker goes back to school, meets his, sees his best friend, and then, there's a lot of good idea in where we're going, but the whole entire movie up until like 10 minutes left of the movie was all closing the story and getting us through to the future. And they've publicly said that Spider-Man Homecoming is not a part of Phase 4. It's just a transition movie to Phase 4.
Okay, and so for those of you who don't know what Matt's talking about with Phase 4 is like the next phase after Endgame, like where are we going next? And so like Phase 1 was like the origin stories of like certain characters, and now we've just finished Phase 3 by completing Endgame, and now we're getting ready to start Phase 4.
Yeah, which I would assume if you're this far into it, you knew that. I'm gonna assume
Hopefully,
that.
but just in case there wasn't, in case
Yeah,
someone
just in
saw it didn't
case.
know.
Just in case. So the Spider-Man movie is more of a transition, which is great. I think that I've had just a lot of closure. Think about it, man. These movies started coming out like a long time ago, starting with Iron Man 1.
Yeah, dude,
And
like right after we graduated high school, like Iron Man was coming out, and you were like, "Whoa, what's
yeah,
going on?"
yeah. So it's been 10 years of seeing these movies, getting involved with these characters, understanding, who they are and where they're at in space time, and like what's available. Because what's going to be unique about the future is there's no more of this story that you can tell as far as origins, like unless you're origin storing new people into the current timeline, because this is the Avengers movie. Then they go and they move on to singular character movies. But what are they plot developing now? We have to get the characters to where they're going and why their storylines are intertwining, and then what are they building for to the new Thanos. I would assume that's what it is. You can't do a Civil War storyline again, where they battle amongst each other. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go, but I definitely felt closure, and that's the best that I can have. I mean, there was only one other thing that I felt decent closure with, is something that big, and it was Breaking Bad.
Oh, no doubt. Oh
Yeah, I
my
mean,
god, that
Breaking
was
Bad
so good.
they took you through the entire storyline, and then at the end he died. And then, I mean, that's what it was. Now they could reopen it and say, "Oh, he wasn't dead. He got saved at the end," and then great. I would feel, that would be great. Just like 5, 6, 7 years later, they can say that Iron Man never died or some shit, or maybe he was able to be revived. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so that was another thing about closure. And so what's your final thing that you want to talk about, or just kind of, reminisce
Well,
almost?
I mean, that was kind of like a little bit of my stuff. I felt like with Iron Man dying, that was paying homage to Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. And I truly believe that they'll transition into something different as far as like where the Iron Man character goes, and like kind of how they do Captain America and all that stuff. Um, but I will say that as you look at the movie, and you now that you've seen the whole movie and you look back and you say, well, oh, I didn't notice this in the beginning, but now it makes sense. You look at the snap of the fingers, right? The snap of the fingers has an effect on the physical body of the person. So in the very beginning, you see Thanos, and he just posted up gathering some like crops or harvest or whatever to make himself some food. He's just surviving. He's out there by himself, just doing his own thing.
After two snaps.
Yeah, and so like the physical ramifications that it has on your body are like big time, even for a dude like Thanos, who's like super super powerful, right? He's got all those scars on his face, and he's got all these other problems going on and all that stuff. Um, so you understand now that you look at the end of the movie, that you see Iron Man, that like, man, when he snaps with the gauntlet on, it takes his life almost immediately. Like he snaps, and then he falls down, and they kind of move around. Pepper Potts is in there, and like some other people are in there, and they just see that like he's slowly dying, and then he eventually dies. And I just think that that's something to pay attention to, like the idea of the snap. Like, not everyone is strong enough to be able to snap and not immediately turn to dust. And so that's
Or
kind of
just
like,
wield the Infinity Gauntlet, or have, like they said, up until these string of movies, dude, not one person has ever held two stones even together. So it's like, yeah, dude's just a human being that's a scientist. Like,
yeah, he's just a smart dude that knows how to make a robot, essentially, you
yeah,
know?
he's not a freaking cosmic being.
Right.
Like before, when you looked at them just acquiring the stones, it had to be some cosmic beings, like even Star-Lord. He's half human, half god. You know what I mean? So he can touch it. But when you talk about these humans like Captain America, he might, and Tony, he could snap his fingers, but that's about all you're going to get from these guys.
Yeah, and I really wish, you mentioned Star-Lord. I wish they would explore more of that, because I don't think a lot of people know that. They don't know that he's half god and half human, which is
Well, they
cool.
do. I mean, that's in the movies. It's
Well,
in Guardians of the Galaxy.
I understand
Duh.
that, but when you think of Star-Lord, you're like, "Yep, he's the one who ruined Avengers, what was it? Infinity War. He ruined it because they had the gauntlet off of him, and he came in there and was pissed about Gamora or something,
Yeah,
and
he
he
acts too
ruined
much.
it for everyone."
Yeah, he acts too much with his human side. But
Yeah, his
he
emotion.
I don't know that he will ever get a singular movie, because the Guardians of the Galaxy movie is essentially his movies. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't know, but
No, I didn't mean like a singular movie. I'm just saying that I just wish that they would kind of explore that, or maybe be able to highlight that a little bit more. Because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is on its way.
well, and that's
Um,
they're going to, obviously. I mean, that's
whoa.
whoa. What?
You didn't hear that? Could you hear that?
No, what was that?
Dude, like massive thunder out here.
Oh, wow. That's
We
a
we've
sign. That's a sign. All right.
we've been on like crazy like tornado watch and all that type of stuff over the like
Yeah,
this
well, you
whole week
literally
so
got
far.
spooked like you saw a ghost. It spooked me
Yeah.
through the mic or through the
Yeah.
cam.
Yeah, no
Anyway,
doubt.
this is the FlexNet. Thank you, everybody. It's our review on Avengers. Hopefully, we got everything out that we wanted to say. Final thoughts.
Avengers was dope. Final thoughts. That's pretty much it. It's just like if you are watching the movie, or if you've seen the movie, or if you haven't seen it and you plan on going to see it, just know that the movie's great. Like when we talk about things that we didn't like about it, it was just us nitpicking. It's not something that you notice off the top. It's something that you kind of think about after you've seen the movie. The movie was great. It's the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. It's, I think I saw some earlier today that said, all time leading in movie sales for opening weekend or something like that. So, I mean, it's an awesome movie. It's great. You will love it. There's plenty of comedy. There's everything you want in a movie. So, go see it if you haven't seen it, and if you've seen it only once, go see it again. Like it's cool, and so we will see those of you who stayed for the end scene of the movie. The report is that at the end, like, the Marvel usually does the end credit scene, right? So like the end credit scene, you can hear like a hammer hitting metal or something like that.
Yeah,
And they asked they being like whatever media outlet asked the Russos, like, hey, what does that mean? Does that mean Iron Man's coming back? Is that paying homage to Iron Man? What is it? And they were like, "Oh no, that's definitely paying homage to Iron Man. Iron Man's not coming back." Like, um, well, they didn't say Iron Man's not coming back, but they said that that's paying homage to Iron Man. So that's something to remember. So I mean, I'll just say, love the movie, great movie. We are the Flex Network. Follow us on all the social medias. Uh, we're all over Facebook more than anything else. But if you follow us on Twitter, um, Twitter's live and it's going. Facebook is the most active, so you follow that. We're on iTunes. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Rate us 5 stars. Say that you love us, stuff like that. That like helps us out like on a whole nother level. You don't even realize it. Um, yeah, just find us where you can find us.
yeah. All right. For Michael, I'm Matt. This is the Flex.
Later.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on them, G. Flex.